What's up guys, it's Roger, and today we are bringing back the Lightning God build inside of Trials of Osiris on Endless Veil, so let's just go ahead and start breaking it down. Now this build is something that I've done a few times before, always changing it in slight ways just to try different things. Today we are going to be using the classic Lucky Raspberry. I always put this on with my Lightning God builds. It used to be better in my opinion, but I wanted to give it a fair shake. Now this exotic has Probability Matrix. It says that it increases the changing capabilities of Arc Bolt grenades. Damaging enemies with Jolt lightning strikes and collecting ionic traces both grant additional Arc Bolt grenade energy. Arc Bolt grenades stun overload champions and delay their health regeneration. So here's the thing. I think Lucky Raspberry used to be better, and we can talk about this more when we get to the gameplay breakdown, but it used to actually have a chance to just reload your entire grenade energy, and now it can't just do that. They took away the lucky part of Lucky Raspberry. It's just raspberry now, which is a great fruit, don't get me wrong, I could eat them all day, but the entire first half of this exotic's name doesn't apply that much in my opinion anymore. So I really don't like what they did to this thing. I think they gutted it a little bit, and it's quite a shame, but it still can be solid, and we'll talk about that more in the gameplay breakdown. You can check out the rest of the mods here. We have some targeting and unflinching for our different weapons. We have some firepower, heavy-handed, and a Reaper mod here. You can pause at any point if you want to read these mods more in depth, but essentially those make Orbs of Power. When we pick those up, we can use our Innervation, which I do have 2 of those on, and our Absolution to get some ability energy back. And last but not least, we do have on 2 Bomber mods. 2 Bomber mods nowadays is going to give us 17% of our grenade energy back every time we use our dodge. Now, on top of the actual Lucky Raspberry, what else do we have to call down the absolute wrath of Thor upon our enemies? Well, my friends, we have the classic Cloud Strike. Now, usually I don't like using cheesy, scummy, kind of meta abuse weapons, and this is the one that if I ever do use something in that arena, I might use this one. It has been nerfed, it's not as good as it used to be, but in my humble opinion, and I'm pretty humble, I mean, what kind of person would be humble and then and while they're actually saying it, obviously, that means I'm humble. Let's stop talking about this. The point is, I don't think that the actual Cloud Strike should one-shot teammates around the person that you hit in the head. I think the only time you should be able to get a one-shot kill with a sniper is if you headshot somebody. Otherwise, I think it should do like maybe 100 to 120 damage with the actual surrounding lightning strike that comes down when you hit somebody in the head. But for some reason, it can still one-tap enemies that are just around the first enemy, which, is how it is. So that's just kind of what this thing does. It calls down the wrath of Thor, and we just gotta live with that. But we also have to live with what our primary weapon is going to be. I've had this thing rattling around in my vault for a really long time, and I just wanted to try it. So I want to say, if you want to use a different weapon, of course, at any point, go ahead and do it. I always tell people that because these builds, any build that you see can always be interchanged with whatever you actually like. Use a different sniper if you want to. Use a different primary weapon if you want to. If you want to try that Eye of Soul that's been inside of your inventory, go ahead and try that out. But this is something that I've had for a while, and I've wanted to try it out. You can see it has Ricky rounds, small bore, Under Pressure, and Headstone, which is one of my favorite perks in all of Trials of Osiris, because you can lock some enemies' ghosts inside of it, and then they can't be rezzed. This thing felt pretty solid. I actually switched to a hand cannon at the end of the day just because I was like, okay, this thing is not getting the job done. But as you can see in a few matches that I played today, I did get like 53 kills on this thing, so it was pretty solid, and if I wasn't having so much lag experience in the Trials today, then I'm sure I would have liked it a lot more. Coming over to our Arc 3.0 here, and we have some pretty usual stuff, but some stuff that I don't use that often either. So first of all, we have Gathering Storm, we have on Marksman's Dodge, which does have a very low cooldown compared to its brother over here, Gambler's Dodge. Obviously not too different, but still just wanted to point that out. This is going to reload our weapons when we do dodge, which is pretty nice to the sniper or the sidearm when you're in the heat up battle. Now after that we have on Blink. If you want to be a little grasshopper freaky boy, you can do that, but for me personally, I'm a Blink master, so I'm always blinking around. After that we have Combination Blow on. I do want to say you can exchange this in this build for Disorienting Blow. Since you're not going to be meleeing the enemies that much anyways, if you would like to just have this on, it will instantly amplify you and blind your enemies, so it's not a bad choice. But I do keep on Combination Blow just in case I have to have those fights in close range. I can actually heal myself with this and get my full dodge energy back. After that we have on Arc Bolt Nades, of course, we have on Lucky Raspberry, or as we established, just Raspberry now, so we're not going to throw around Blinding Nades or anything with the Raspberry on. We want to use our Arc Bolt Nades. After that we have on Flow State. This is always something that I recommend you run. Some people like to run their Tempest Strike and Lethal Current at the same time. Me personally, I would recommend you always run Flow State because you're losing so many benefits to your actual Amplified, which is a big part of your kit in Arc if you don't have on Flow State. After that, like I showed you before, we do have Tempest Strike. So we're going to launch that down a lane. It'll jolt enemies. It'll do like 125 damage, I believe it is, to them. Travel over some terrain, stuff like that. So pretty solid right there. You can combo this with your actual sidearm shots really easily and get free kills. We hate to have on Spark of Haste. That's going to give us plus 30 to our resilience, recov, and mobility while we're sprinting for a couple of seconds. Which leads me into covering what I always do. I have a really low mobility stat, and you're like, ooh, you can't have that low mobility on Hunter. That's sacrilege. Freaking suck my left nut and call me King Tut. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to put a clip on screen for you right now showing you how fast your dodge energy regenerates. Look at that in the bottom left. That's how fast it regens when you are amplified. Oftentimes at the end of a round or even mid-round, you're going to become amplified with a build like this. So you're going to get your actual dodge back quite often just with an arc build, so you don't need a super high mobile. Now I will say I usually like to run at least 60 if I can and have a lightweight frame weapon on, which I don't today, but if you want to run a higher mobile, have a lightweight frame weapon or anything in between, go ahead and do that. But just remember that even when we're running around, we do have 50 mobile because of this Spark of Haste, and with our amplified combined with that, we get our dodge back all the time. And you gotta remember guys, this is a 29-second base cooldown. It's not very long in the slightest, so don't freak out about that stuff, trust me. Now after that, we have on Spark of Ions, so defeating a jolted target creates an ionic trace, which is obviously just nice for that extra bit of energy, which goes back to our actual Lucky Raspberry too and combos with that very well. After that, we have on Spark of Recharge, so when we're critically wounded, our melee and grenade energy regenerates more quickly, which is very nice there. I believe that's like a 200% energy boost, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I looked at the numbers on that, but it's something crazy like that. And last but not least, we have on Spark of Shock, so our Arc Bolt nades will actually be able to jolt targets. I don't think Lucky Raspberry just lets them jolt, which is interesting because it works off jolting. You know, you spread jolt and then they get to recharge faster, which is pretty funny, but everything that I've seen when I don't have this Spark on and then I throw a Lucky Raspberry nade, they don't jolt by themselves, so I do run this actual fragment. And with all of that covered, I think we have everything we need to say. If you want to leave this video a like or subscribe at any point, I very much appreciate that. And if you do have any questions about the build, please feel free to leave those in the comment section or join the Blinkville Discord server. I'm going to have that linked in the top right and in the description. But I think we're ready to get in this gameplay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and blink on into it. Now my strategy is pretty simple on my Hunter here. We're going to use both of our blinks to get to Blaine as quickly as we can. Depending on where the flag is, you're going to go to different lanes. If the flag is in middle or on shrine like it is this round, I usually go to mid like I did right here. Now you can see me pushing forward because I wanted to get an angle on them because I saw they were towards shrine, but instead they started pushing towards me. So I threw out my Tempest Strike. They didn't walk into it. Completely fine. We'll just take a peek and take one out. His ghost is now stuck inside of a headstone crystal since I killed him with my actual pistol here. Then we take out the second guy, boom, another headstone crystal right there. You can see pretty good stuff. Oh, you can also see how that guy actually died and his ghost kind of slid out of the headstone crystal. Kind of annoying, a little thing that's been happening lately. Nice flick right there. For some reason, headstones have been a little buggy lately, and ghosts sometimes will spawn like a foot or two to the left or right, wherever it may be, away from the headstone crystal and not inside of it. Really freaking annoying. I think it's due to the crazy amount of latency and lag abusing that's been happening lately in the Crucible. As you can see with that kill right there, it worked flawlessly. His ghost was right inside of that crystal, and if somebody went up to actually res it, they would not be able to get it unless they broke the headstone crystal. I do want to mention there is a actual artifact perk on, well, you know, the artifact. That's why it's called artifact perk. What do you think about that? Crazy, right? I think it's called Hail the Storm, if I'm not mistaken. It's in the far right column, so you do need to get your artifact basically finished if you want to grab it. There's another example of latency getting me killed. Love it. Teammate picks me up though and I smack this round up. And that perk is going to allow you to break crystals, right? And do some extra damage with them, as well as it's supposed to spawn some little projectiles that do damage to enemies as well. Now, I'm pretty sure that works even if you're not on stasis. You can see here we're doing some damage to this guy when we break the crystal, and it does look like it does some extra damage to him, although the damage numbers were kind of weird there again because of latency and whatnot. The infrastructure of this game is crumbling harder than the fucking Berlin Wall, and Gorbachev is not happy about it. Now, here's the thing. I would suggest you put that on and just kind of tear it up. Now, here's Cloudstrike being crazy. I mean, it's kind of that guy's fault on that one. Now, you know, the thing was this weekend, I wanted to try this sidearm. I'm not mad that I did, but like I said, I'm talking about the latency. That's been my biggest problem this weekend. It's been really goofy, and it's messing up the headstone, it's messing up snipes, and especially with a sidearm like this, you know, you need to be quite accurate on the head to really get that good TTK, and that can be kind of hard this weekend with how laggy it's been. So just keep that kind of stuff in mind if you want to use any kind of weapons like this. Now, let's talk about Lucky Raspberry. Oh boy, Lucky Raspberry. So, like I said in the intro with you guys, they took away the actual lucky component, so now it's just freaking raspberry. Now, just like any of you, if I was with my perfect wife, who doesn't exist because I'm alone forever, and we went to pick some nice little fruit in the summertime, and maybe we find a raspberry patch, and we're just loving life, putting raspberries in a little basket, and take them home for the baby, make them a little raspberry pie, This is the headcanon of the life I want to live, but let's go back to reality really quick and talk about how Lucky Raspberry now doesn't have the lucky component, because you can hit those nades, and what's going to happen is they're not going to necessarily just refill your nade. How it used to work was you had 4 chains of an arc bolt nade after you had Lucky Raspberry on. Now it works the same way now. Once you put Lucky Raspberry on, you do get 4 chains instead of 3. Very good. We love that upgrade. As you can see there, it went off pretty hard. And you can watch my nade energy. We already have half our nade back by the end of this round because of that orb and all the kills I got with that nade. So that's good stuff right there, right? But in the past, if that nade would have chained enough times, it might have just given me straight back. How it used to work was 1 chain was a 25% chance to give you a full nade back. 2 chains was a 50% chance. It's also a wrapper. And then beyond that, once you got to 4 chains, that became a 100% chance to get your nade back, and then you would, get your nade back. And it worked really well. And when you did get those lucky procs where all of a sudden you hit 1 tick on 1 enemy and then you got your full nade back, it felt amazing. You felt like you were getting this kind of actual big oomph from this otherwise not looked at exotic that made it feel much more worth it, right? You're like, man, I just got so lucky right there. Maybe I threw a bit of a dud nade, but I wanted to use it in this engagement to pick up a kill. It only did 1 chain, but I got lucky enough that I just got my nade right back. I used to have rounds, and you can go check out some of my old Lucky Raspberry builds, and I'd implore you to watch those videos, and you'll see there's been several times where I would get 3, 4, 5 nades sometimes in 1 round, just off chucking them in, because they would keep refilling. And I understand why that can be a problem. But instead of changing it to how they did here, I think what they could have done is just said, okay, we're going to limit it. We're going to build in a limiter on this thing that says, hey, you can only get up to 2 nades in a row, 3 nades in a row off the lucky procs. Once you do that, the lucky procs stop working for a cooldown of, let's say, 30 seconds, or until your next grenade naturally respawns from energy, right? That would be a good component to put in the game to balance that mechanic out. Instead, they completely changed it, and they took away the entire lucky component of it. And now we're just left here, like I said before, with our little fucking raspberry pi here. Now, that's great if you want to make a little, a computer the size of a grain of rice. Cool. That's a little Raspberry Pi, little programming joke for you, for your little nerds out there. I know you're a freaking nerd, Derek. I don't think I've ever known anyone named Derek in my life. Not the point. The point is, I really don't like what they've done with Lucky Raspberry here. Otherwise, I think that the nades should also just jolt by themselves. Don't understand why they don't. If I'm mistaken and they do, then let me know in the comments. But everything that I've seen, it looks like they don't jolt by themselves. It seems like they took this exotic that was... I got pushed by my teammate there, by the way. That's why I missed that snipe. My teammate just shoved me to the wall. I wanted to use that clip to show you. Don't shove your teammates, you absolute fucking buffoons. But I think they took the exotic and they were like, hey, this was good in PvP and it was fine in PvE. And then they went around the corner, they walked into Circle K, they slapped the cashier on the ass and said, baby, I want 2 servings of fuck this exotic in PvP and make it only PvE usable now. And I don't understand why they would do that. It doesn't make any sense, because if you go and you look at usage rates for Lucky Raspberry, and usage rates, we shouldn't balance based off that. Okay, cool. Bungie's gonna lie to us all day and pretend like they don't balance off usage rates, but unless you have eyeballs in your butt cheeks, which you might, and that's kind of hot, well, they do. That's one of their biggest signs that they want to nerf or buff something. This exotic, by the way, I gotta love Fusion right there. Fun, he gets taken down by my teammates though. This exotic, barely anybody used it, and when they did, it was a very niche case, and it was fun, and it would give you some cool plays sometimes, but it wasn't an always on, always used exotic such as Stompies or Wormcrutch, It just didn't fill those slots. So I don't understand why it caught the short end of the stick. It's always annoyed me, and I really wish they would revert it a bit and actually give it back its lucky part of its name. Because if my name was Garpo, the Destroyer of Worlds, and suddenly I changed my line of work and I became a baker, then I think everybody would be kind of pissed if I still walked around calling myself the Destroyer of Worlds. Nah, bro, you make muffins, okay? You don't destroy worlds, you literally make muffins all day. But anyways, that's just something I had to get out there. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. That was a nice round right there. You could see he wasn't rezzing his teammate up on Shrine, and you're wondering why was he not rezzing his teammate? Well, for one, he's kind of stupid because he could have just broken the headstone crystal, but I did kill his boyfriend at first with a headshot from my sidearm, and that put his ghost on Shrine inside of a headstone crystal, so he couldn't just res him. He might have been a little bit more of a, less of an experienced player. So I was trying to figure out how I wanted to say that. I also thought that guy was going to die and then he died in my burst, so I had to go back and finish his little cooch off and smack this guy. I thought he was so slick with his freaking rift here. Dude, Stasis Warlocks were just peeving me off today. I think, make sure you are subscribed. You're ready for my Warlock video later on because, ooh, baby, I was donking on some Stasis Warlocks. It was really funny. And I got into this, 2v3 because one of my teammates rage quit in one of my matches. Oh man, I dunked on these two Stasis Warlocks. It was beautiful. So you make sure you are ready for that video and you can see that there because it was a beauty. But yeah, overall, people just don't see the headstone very often. So when it does come into play, they don't really think around it. And that can be a very good boon for you. There's nothing better in this game than when you can take something and apply it in a fight that people don't have experience with. If I walked into a bowling alley versus let's say a 6-year-old to be generous, and I started knocking pins down like fucking Godric Godfrey, right? This kid would absolutely wreck his little diaper, and I wouldn't even feel bad. Sorry, Slugger. Papa's been bowling for 20 plus years now. I know what I'm doing. I'm not the best in the business. I'm not saying I'm the Bowlerama champ, but I can knock down pins with some of the best of them sometimes. But the 6-year-old, he can't, right? And that's where you can flex your experience on someone. It's the same thing in this game. If you walk around with something like a headstone weapon, people are gonna get crunked by it. They're not gonna know how to play around it sometimes. They're gonna run to a res, they're gonna be kind of flustered because maybe they're in a 1v1, 2v1 situation, whatever it may be, and all they wanna do is get that res. What happens when they walk around the corner and they get there and their boy is frozen harder than Luke Skywalker when he's on Hoth, baby? They're not gonna know what to do. And that's when you can swoop in like Batman and put a batarang straight up their boosy cheeks. And that's the stuff you're looking for. Inexperience with things like Blink. That's why I play Blink. Well, it's one of the many reasons. Most of all is just because it's the only way that I really have fun in PvP is by playing Blink. I really, really love it. Obviously, I made a whole channel about it if you didn't know. A little known fact, but I just thought I'd throw that out there for you guys. But all this goes to say that when people deal with things they don't have experience with, they start to falter because they don't know how to react to it. It's the same thing as someone walked up to you and they started to throw a punch back into your face. What would you do? Instinctively, you would try to block it with your hands or dodge out of the way because you know how to deal with someone punching you. If someone came up to you and started playing patty cake with your nutsack, you wouldn't exactly know how to react to that because that situation probably hasn't happened to you much in your life. And if it has, you might want to check out where you are in life because I'm honestly kind of worried for you. That shouldn't be happening. Go speak to a therapist. The point is, the unexpected is something in this game that can very much catch people off guard and be a very big advantage to you, and that's why I like little, unknown weapons like this. People don't even know about this sidearm for the most part, but they definitely aren't ready when I pull out a headstone version of it, cook their friend, and I can do it with something like this in this round. I actually fat fingered my nade there, so ignore that, but what I do here is I go and I start baiting him with the zone, and I stand behind the headstone. And I say, okay, challenge me. Now I have a piece of cover that he does not expect to be there, because usually there's not a piece of cover there. But I made myself a piece of cover with that headstone perk, and then I used it to go ahead and 1v1 him and take the entire round. That got me my super, which led directly into this next round, and I was looking to go ahead and get a pick with it so I could start things off. I blink up against that wall. That is basically what you call a blink wall slide. You can blink into walls and kind of just slide your hitbox off of them. It'll help you get a little farther in the map. This is a nice blink right there. Always know you can have some good blink spots on this map, but you should remember there are a lot of blank blinks on this map. What's a blank blink, Roger? Essentially, it's just a part of a map where there's an invisible roof, and when you try to blink, you just hit your noggin on it. So be careful about that on this map because it's really bad. A little laggy on this clip, sorry, it happens sometimes, but boom, smack that guy in the head. And we are coming to our last 2 clips here, so I do want to thank you guys again so much for watching. Again, make sure you are subscribed, and hopefully you left me a like or a comment on this video, or both, just so I can get some engagement. That tells the YouTube algorithm that you are enjoying the content, and then they can push it to more people, so I can keep growing the channel even faster. I do want to reach 10K as fast as we can in this new year, so if you want to be a part of that, I'd really appreciate it. That is it for me today, though, so as always, have a great day, Guardians.